I'm Lisa Barnes, Executive Director of Summer of the Arts, and today's creative conversation is with local artist Allison McClain. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem.
So, Allison, you were an emerging artist at the Iowa Arts Festival several years ago. Was that while you were in high school or while you were in college?
That was while I was in college.
Okay, and you did that 2 years, right? Can you tell us a little bit about your experience as an emerging artist?
So it was a really great opportunity for me to meet a lot of other artists with a lot of different mediums and backgrounds. From my first year as an emerging artist to my second, my entire setup changed. One thing that I learned from the first year was that I was really spread out. I mean, I was in school, so I was doing all these different mediums, all these different styles. I hadn't really found like my voice specifically. And that was a lot of the feedback that I got from people that visited my booth, like, oh, you have a lot of different stuff here.
Yeah.
And so I took that, and it really worked out well because I was in my senior year for college, my fourth year. And a big part of that year was, what am I as an artist? What is my brand? What is,
Your focus.
my focus? Yeah, absolutely. And so I was really able to go in and implement that as an emerging artist. I kind of found my voice. I had like one style that I was going towards, and it was really well received.
Good.
And I think that really helped me gain a lot of confidence for applying to other shows and seeing myself as somebody who could do this.
Yeah, that's great. And I know that happens with a lot of college students, especially because you are working in so many different mediums. So we do see that a lot from emerging artists, but it's great when you get to the point where you can determine your focus. So at what age did you know that you really wanted to study art? How did that all come about?
Yeah, so I was always like creatively inclined and kind of known as like the art kid when I was growing up. Definitely like in middle school, I was like designing t-shirts for the band and the choir, and
Nice.
really involved in all the artistic things that they had going on. But when I got into high school, I buckled down, decided I need to focus on getting like a real job. And so I didn't take any art classes. I was going to be an architect.
Okay, well, there's some art
Right.
involved in architecture
So I
for
thought
sure.
that was a good like creative adjacent for me and practical. And so I was taking a lot of math, but my homeroom teacher happened to be the art teacher who had kind of heard of me and really wanted me to just take one art class and just see how it goes. And once I was in the class and he saw what passion I had for it, he very much encouraged me to start doing competitions and do more, do other classes, get more involved with the arts. But I was still like, okay, this is fun, but I'm not thinking of it as like I could be an artist.
As a career.
I then did like a job shadowing with an actual architect firm and realized it was not at all what I was expecting. And so then I had already formed like a great relationship with that art teacher, and he really became a mentor to me and really opened my eyes to see like all these different things within the field that I could be doing that are actually related to art and I would enjoy doing. So
That's wonderful. When
Yeah.
you got a mentor like that, that makes a big difference. So you're from Solon, went to the University of Iowa,
no,
right? No?
I did not.
Where did you go?
I did 1 year in Kansas City at
Okay.
the Kansas City Art Institute, came back home for a time, and then finished my degree in children's book illustration with the Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design.
Oh,
But I did that online, so
I should have known that. I
Yeah.
should have remembered that. So
kind of
sorry.
a wild story.
Yeah, I know. Well, that tends to happen to a lot of people. You kind of fall into different things. And so obviously book illustration is
Yeah.
what you're doing now. And I have your latest book here,
Yeah.
which is absolutely adorable. So how do you get connected to authors?
So Christopher Span specifically, he found me on a website called SCBWI,
Okay.
which is the Society for Children's Book Writers and Illustrators,
Okay.
which is a great resource. It's international. It has like a profile, and it's a great way thank you, for authors and illustrators to kind of collaborate and meet new people.
I remember when my kids were little, a lot of times we would look for books that had the same illustrator.
Really?
Because we just love the style. And what I love about yours is, how do you put emotion into a tulip? I bet that was very challenging. And as I recall, when you were at the Holiday Thieves Market a couple of years ago, I actually talked to you about book illustration because there's a local children's author that I know, and I told her, I said, go talk to Allison, go talk to Allison. I don't know if she ever did. But so how many books that you said this is your latest? Mm-hmm. How many books have you illustrated?
So 2 that have been published, and then 1 that I'm currently working on right now.
That is so exciting.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about the transition from being an emerging artist as a college student to actually participating in art fairs? And obviously you participate in the Iowa Arts Festival, in the Holiday Thieves Market. What other shows have you done? How has that transition been for you?
So I have done a couple other shows outside of this area. Cedar Rapids, I do quite a few shows. Mm-hmm. Last year I tried to branch out. The furthest I've been is like up in Okoboji.
Okay. That would be fun.
Yeah, it was like a nice little vacation afterwards too. But very, very different going into just being a regular vendor at the art show. There's so much that I learned from that first year. I was not prepared.
We're laughing about the storm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
have to laugh or you're going to cry, right? How much work did you lose?
A lot of it. Luckily, I had some back at my house, some inventory, so I was able to come back after that storm absolutely demolished my tent.
Yeah. So that would have been, was that 23 or 22? 22? No, 23.
23, yeah.
It's 23. So Iowa Arts Festival in 2023, Friday night, we had a freak pop-up storm that blew through, took down tents. We at Summer of the Arts lost our first aid tent in that, almost lost the green room. We had damage to a lot of tents, and it really sucked because it was also Friday night, the first night of the festival. And as I told you off camera, I'd been off site and I got back, and I just remember you coming up to me saying, is there any place I can put this stuff to dry? And we took you into Old Capitol Mall, and fortunately Abby, the owner of Glissando, was nice enough to let you put stuff in there. And I bet that year you were wishing that you were still an emerging artist, which was inside the mall.
Yeah, I would have had a lot less stress for the storm coming.
Yeah, that was a fluke, and hopefully we won't have that happen again. Have you already applied for this year's Arts Festival?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yay. Be happy to have you back.
Yeah.
So do you have any other things that you do outside of illustration, or are you totally doing this as your career?
So as far as art-wise, I do the children's book illustration during like the fall and winter months, and then I go out and do the art shows during the summer.
Okay.
But I do have like a day job. I work for the University of Iowa.
Oh, okay. And that's not uncommon for a lot of artists, obviously. So you got to make a living, and it can be hard to get to the point where you're making a living off your work. So in addition to doing the book illustration, you also have pictures that you've done, you have cards. What other types of inventory do you have?
So I have coloring books, stickers, postcards, greeting cards, holiday cards, books, sketchbooks.
And these are, it looks to me like it's either watercolor and pen and ink, or is it drawing? Strictly colored pencil and stuff.
I have kind of an interesting process. I never know whether to call myself mixed media or if I'm just painting.
Yeah.
But I start out with pen and ink, and I do all the outlines, and then I go in with watercolor and do like some broad washes. And then I go in with some finer detail to do colored pencil.
Okay. That is very interesting. So is that something that you, This is just so cute.
Swarm of flies.
Yeah. Is this a process that you kind of discovered or decided that this was the best way to work with what you wanted to do, like when you were in college, or how did you get to the point of doing this type of work?
It's somewhat similar to the art style that my high school teacher had.
Okay.
Not quite the same, but definitely the very illustrative pen and ink. He does a lot of that. And you know, I did like a lot of different mediums when I was in college. I was really into just pen and ink, no color at all. But then I also liked doing really colorful stuff. So it was a good way for me to like kind of combine all the different processes that I liked into one.
It's fascinating to me how you can get the detail that you have on this with the pen and ink, and then to be able to get that watercolor that makes it look so realistic and yet so vibrant too. It's very nice. So what have you learned about yourself through this whole journey that you've had as an artist?
Well, I think, you know, as an artist or just, you know, life in general, things are going to come up that you don't expect and you just can't plan for. But so my first year in college, I actually became pregnant, which is why I came back home. And there was a lot of people, you know, people that I was going to school with, people back home that were maybe looking at me with a little bit of pity, like, oh, you know, like she was doing so great, but now, you know, things are going to change and she's going to redirect her life. But honestly, he has influenced and inspired my art in a way that I couldn't have, you know, possibly fathomed. He loves to be part of the process, and a lot of the stuff that I do, like the subject matter, maybe it'll be like his favorite animal at the moment, or I'll put in like little Easter eggs for him to find all the different little ladybugs. There's 6 of them in this picture. And then also, of course, like with the book writing, we're at the library all the time. You know, I'm reading so many children's books that I probably wouldn't have, you know, seen if not for him. So
how old is he now?
He's 6.
Okay. So I am guessing that you have been given the opportunity. This is perfect because you're kind of seeing the world through your son's eyes.
Yes. And he is just a very fun, outgoing personality. So it's great to see it through his eyes, have my own experience when I was a child. It's greatly informed me as an artist, especially for the kind of art that I do, which is really geared for you know, young parents and kids. Yeah,
that's wonderful. That's a great way to share your love of art with your son. Too. So thank you for sharing that. So what's next on the horizon for you?
Finishing up the book that I'm currently working on with a local author in North Liberty.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And applying to some more shows.
Wonderful. So where can people find you online?
They can find
They purchase your stuff online?
Yeah. So I have a website, and it's got places where you can find the books. All the books that I've illustrated so far are also on Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
And what is that site? Your site?
AllisonMcClainStudios.com.
AllisonMcClainStudios.com. Definitely check out Allison's work, and hopefully you'll be accepted to this year's art fair again. And you can see her June 6th through the 8th at the 2025 Iowa Arts Festival. Fingers crossed. I can't make that decision. I'm not the person that actually judges, but hopefully she'll be back this year. And we appreciate your time and joining us and talking through creative conversations with Summer of the Arts.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.